Hi, this is Matthew Williams, and I'm just going to bring you a piece by Charlie Brooker called IhateMacs. Charlie presents a program called Screen Wipe, which takes the piss out of television in the UK. Very funny. Go and watch it. Anyway, hope you enjoy this, Charlie, my rendition. Unless you've been walking around with your eyes closed and your head encased in a block of concrete with a blindfold tied round it, in the dark, unless you've been doing that, you surely can't have failed to have noticed the current Apple Macintosh campaign starring David Mitchell and Robert Webb, which has taken over magazines, newspapers and the internet in a series of brutal coordinated attacks aimed at causing massive loss of resistance. While I don't have anything against shameless promotion, per se, after all, within these brackets I'm promoting my very own BBC show which starts tonight at 10 PM, there is something infuriating about this particular blitz. In the ads, Webb plays a Mac, while Mitchell adopts the mantle of a PC. We know this because they say so right at the start of the ad. "Hello, I'm a Mac," says Webb, "and I'm a PC," adds Mitchell. They perform a small comic vignette aimed at highlighting the differences between the two computers. So in one, the PC has a nasty virus that makes him sneeze like a plague victim. In another, he keeps freezing up and having to reboot. This is a subtle way of saying that PCs are unreliable. Mitchell, incidentally, is wearing a nerdy costume, conservative throughout, while Webb is dressed in a laid-back, contemporary, casual wear. This is a subtle way of saying Macs are cool. The ads are adapted from a near-identical American campaign. The only difference is the use of Mitchell and Webb. They are a logical choice in one sense because everyone likes them, but a curious choice in another since they are best known for the television series Peep Show, probably the best sitcom of the last 5 years, in which Mitchell plays a repressed neurotic underdog and Webb plays a selfish, self-regarding poseur. So when you see the ads you think PCs are a bit rubbish yet ultimately lovable, whereas Macs are just smug preening tossers. In other words, it's a devastatingly accurate campaign. I hate Macs. I've always hated Macs, and I hate people who use Macs. I even hate people who don't use Macs but sometimes wish they did. Macs are glorified Fisher-Price activity centres for adults. Computers for scaredy cats too nervous to learn how proper computers work. Computers for people who earnestly believe in feng shui. PCs are ramshackle computers of the people. You can build your own from scratch, then customise it into oblivion. Sometimes you have to slap it, sometimes to make it work properly, just like the TARDIS. Doctor Who, incidentally, would use a PC. PCs have charm, Macs use pretension. When I sit down to use a Mac, the first thing I think is, I hate Macs. And then I think, why has this rubbish aspirational ornament only got one mouse button? Losing the second mouse button really feels like losing a limb. And if the ads are really honest, Webb would be standing there with one arm struggling to open a packet of peanuts whilst Mitchell effortlessly tore his apart with both hands. But then, if the ads were really honest, Webb would be dressed in an unbelievably po-faced avant-garde clothing with a gigantic Apple glowing logo on his back. And instead of conducting a proper conversation, he would be repeatedly congratulating himself for looking so cool and banging on about how he's going to use his new laptop to write a novel, but without ever getting round to it. Like a mediocre idiot. Cue 10 years of nasal bleating from Mac likers who profess to like Macs not because they're fashionable, but because they are just better. Mac owners often sneer at that kind of defence back at you when you mock their silly posturing contraptions, because in doing so you've inadvertently put your finger on the dark fear haunting their feeble quivering soul. That in some sense they are superficially semi-person, assembled from packaging, an infinitely sad, second-rate replicant who doesn't really know what they're doing here, but feels vaguely significant and creative each time they gaze at the sleek designer machine. And the more deftly constructed and wittily argued their defence, the more terrified and wounded they secretly are. Aside from crowing about sartorial differences, the adverts also make a big deal about PCs being associated with work stuff. Boo! Offices, boo! As opposed to Macs, which are apparently better at fun stuff. How insecure is that? And how inaccurate? Better at fun stuff? My arse. The only way to have fun with a Mac is to poke its insufferable owner in the eye. For proof, stroll into any decent game shop and cast your eye over the exhaustive range of cutting-edge computer games available exclusively for the PC. Then compare that with the sort of rubbish you get on the Mac. Myst, the most pompous and boring video game of all time, a plodding, dismal adventure in which you wandered around solving tedious puzzles in a rubbish magic kingdom, apparently modelled on pretentious album covers, originated on the Mac in 1993. And that same year, the first shoot-'em-up game, Doom, was released on the PC. This tells you all you'll ever need to know about a Mac's relationship with fun. Ultimately, the campaign's biggest flaw is that it perpetuates the notion that consumers somehow define themselves with the technology that they choose. And if you truly believe that you need to pick up a mobile phone that says something about your personality, don't bother. You don't have a personality. A mental illness maybe, but not a personality. Of course, that hasn't stopped me slagging off Mac owners with a series of sweeping generalisations for the past 900 words. But that is what the ads do to PCs. Besides, that's what we PC owners are like: unreliable, idiosyncratic, and gleefully unfair. And if you'll excuse me now, I feel an unexpected crash coming. I just about got through that without fucking up. That's a miracle. But yes, that just about sums up my feelings on Macs, because they're a pile of old boring shite with crap game selection and, very tempered, slow interface. But it's okay to move around if you're a bit crippled and we've got one arm and one finger. It's alright then. It works really well for people who don't understand computers very well, and that's why these people go bleating on about how good their Macs are, because you can use one when you don't know much about computers, and your PC was really hard and used to crash a lot. No, it's probably crashing because you stuck stuff on it that made it crash. My PC hardly ever crashes, but then again, I do know a lot about PCs, and I did build mine, and I do repair PCs. So, there is a bit of a difference between a user and an expert. So, computer users who don't know anything about computers often do go and get Macs. And unlike a car, you don't need a license to own a computer. So, without any training at all whatsoever, a lot of people go wandering off to the stores to buy machines they know nothing about. And then when they get them home and they cock them up, then they don't understand how to correct the cock-ups and to fix them. So, yes, in some senses, I suppose Apples are quite easy. But then Janet and John books are quite easy too. But I don't think I'd want to be reading one of those this evening. So, there we are. Thanks for watching.